Welcome to The Exchange from our new studio here in Qatar. I'm Guy Schoen, bringing you the biggest news and interviews from all around the business world. Coming up on the show, the global art and antiquities industry is a $50 billion market. But is there a dark side to collecting artworks and ancient artifacts? And following the money, we take a look at what's being done to clamp down on the illegal trade of antiquities. For most people, museums are where we go to look at works of art or ancient artifacts. But those who can afford it prefer to have them much closer, paying millions to display exclusive pieces in their living room or study. Well, the collection of art and antiques is worth $50 billion globally. But whether it's a rare painting or a unique sculpture, there's unfortunately an ugly side to the art market, and that's illegal trade. Well, here to tell us more about that is our reporter, Lila Hamira, who'll be joining us from this studio on many more episodes to come. Lila, there's a lot of concern about the illegal art trade, isn't there?
That's right, Guy. It's a fascinating but worrying topic. Let's take a look at the stats. Illegal art trade makes up about 5% of the whole industry. And while that may seem like a small figure, it's a stubborn and growing problem that's increasingly tarnishing the art world. During the worst surges of the pandemic, the whole world was locked down. But trade in the antiquities black market was more active than ever, generating $10 billion in just 2 years. Now, organizations like UNESCO and Interpol tell us that too often money doesn't trickle down to the people whose livelihoods depend on finding cultural treasure. And worrying sums are instead being diverted to fund criminal activities. So, Guy, while there's an increasing interest in buying beautiful pieces of art, it's truly a case of buyer beware.
Buyer beware indeed. Now, as the UN's Agency for Culture and Education, UNESCO has for decades led global efforts in preserving cultural heritage in a safe way. Ernesto Atone Ramirez is the Assistant Director General for Culture at UNESCO and joins us now from Paris. Ernesto, the antiques trade used to have a great reputation, didn't it? So how did it become tied to cultural racketeering?
Since 20 or 30 years, it has become a very huge shift in some part of the market, and it represents 5% of the market with a huge volume of money that is dealt, where it has become more easy to trafficking antiquities. Many of them are World Heritage Sites, and there is a lot that we don't know. And the reason is very specific. All these sites that are not yet discovered or are in process to be researched are not inscribed anywhere. So it's antiquities that we didn't know that exists.
Thank you, Ernesto. So the nature of undiscovered heritage sites and art pieces makes it harder for organisations like UNESCO and historians to trace their authenticity. Well, the sale of stolen antiquities happens on a global scale, so it needs an international network of law enforcement, and that's where Interpol steps in. The organisation has had a whole department dedicated to fighting crimes against cultural property. And most recently, Interpol has strengthened its efforts to track down antiquities by using just a smartphone. Well, we sent Cyril Fanares to Interpol's headquarters in Lyon to find out what their app is all about.
Yes, Guy, Interpol says we're facing an unprecedented looting of cultural heritage from war-torn countries. By the time they get to collectors or museums, it's hard to tell if they've been taken illegally. Interpol has stepped up efforts by launching an app called ID Art that can help with the identification of these so-called blood antiquities. Let's see how it works. So tell us, what has been Interpol's answer to this surge we're seeing in so-called blood antiquities?
Since this is a global phenomenon, countries must work together. The role of Interpol is primarily to support our member countries, our specialized unit in this field. One tool that we have developed to help them is IDArt, our first mobile application. With the mobile application IDArt, you can understand if an object is included in our database. If the object appears, it means the object was stolen. And the most special thing that a red button will allow you to report to Interpol the item found. At the Art is an application that is a perfect tool for police officers, customer officials, art dealers, general public, or artists, among others. In Spain and Romania, for example, some specialized units already recovered some stolen items thanks to the mobile application.
While UNESCO and Interpol are raising awareness and educating art collectors and the public about stolen cultural property, what more can be done to crack down on the crime? Well, I put this question to Deborah Lohr of the Antiquities Coalition.
That's a very important issue to address. One is we need to see an upgrading in the international legal structure. We need to see it as a crime. And so there need to be stiff penalties. If you contrast, for example, what burglary is, breaking and entering, as we may see breaking and entering of an archaeological site or a museum, or the buying essentially of stolen goods, we need to see some of that, because often this money is supporting organized crime, but also it's just a crime against humanity.
A crime against humanity. Tough words from Deborah, who says stealing cultural property is similar to burglary and therefore warrants a harsher punishment. Now it's time for our regular feature, Business in 60 Seconds. Start the clock. China reports its inflation and trade data for March. The country recorded its largest ever trade surplus last year, driven by strong export demand. Inflation has been easing since the start of the year due to weakening demand in the property sector and new COVID curbs. Cooling inflation will give the central bank more room to ease policy to support the economy. The Organisation of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, releases its monthly oil report. The cartel has said it expects the world to need 28.9 million barrels per day from its members this year. The forecast allows for further increases in oil production. And British online fashion retailer ASOS is out with its earnings for the first quarter. The firm has been on a robust earnings run, but warned that profit could slump by more than 40% this year. ASOS is also expected to feel a pinch from consumers returning to malls and pre-pandemic shopping behaviours. So, despite the pandemic, the global art and antiquities industry has managed to thrive, with more sales and auctions than ever. And while illegal trade makes up just a small segment of the market, it has the potential to tarnish the reputation of some very big stakeholders, including art collectors and many of the world's leading museums. Well, that's all we have time for on this edition of the show. Thanks for watching. Please do check out euronews.com for all your latest business news. And join us again next time on The Exchange.